What's up, everybody, and welcome back to Tide Talk, the fan-created podcast talking all things Rhode Island FC. We're back to chat about Rhode Island FC's 2-1 win in Charleston to advance to the USL Championship Finals. Each episode of Tide Talk is available on YouTube, and if you're watching now, please take a second to hit that subscribe button and give this episode a thumbs up. You can also find us on your favorite podcast applications like Spotify and Apple Podcasts. If you listen there, we'd really appreciate it if you took a minute to leave us a 5-star rating and a short review, as it helps more people find our podcast. If you're not already using the RIFC Club Collector app, make sure you click the link in the episode description and type in the code Tide Talk, all one word, to get a free pack to add to your collection. There is still going to be one more match day contest, folks, so get in there. My name is Ryan, and I will be your co-host tonight. I am joined by someone who I have basically spent the entire past 24 hours with, Andrew Quadros. Andrew, how we doing?
I am fantastic. Hard not to be. This team just gives us more and more reasons to be feeling good. So I am doing great.
Exactly. So everybody, let's cozy up. Let's crack a beer. And let's dive into this one. So Andrew, obviously your travel journey started a bit more. And what I meant by when I said Andrew and I have spent the past 24 hours together is we were at the game. So we are hoping to give a little bit of kind of inside baseball on being at the match, how it was there, and kind of the journey that led to it. So you went down a day early. So how was that for you?
Yeah, it was great. I jumped on the Breeze flight that was on Friday afternoon, heading over to Charleston from Providence. So it was great. I mean, even getting on there, I had my RIFC hat on. The crew recognized it, and they had said that they're a crew that had serviced the team multiple times before, including the day before when they brought the team down to Charleston, and they were gushing about just how good of guys all of them are and how great they've been whenever they've been on. So it was fun. Then headed down to Charleston. Got there kind of early evening, and then was able to spend some time out in the city. Got some dinner, had some drinks, watched the fight. So it was fun to be able to spend some time in Charleston and be able to kind of soak it all in. I didn't really see much in the way of Charleston Battery jerseys or shirts or Rhode Island for that matter, but we knew that the fight was coming the next day. And the next day, kind of just walked around the city, got to really soak it in. Headed over to Lewis Barbecue, which I know that you all went to as well, and got to meet a lot of the ownership group and investors that were there. So really cool was, I was just walking in there with my barbecue, and Brett Johnson literally got up from this table when he saw my hat on, came over, introduced himself to me, and invited me to sit down at the table with him, and got to spend some time with him and a lot of the other folks in the investor group. So all really great people, and it was a good way to kind of kick things off for what was coming later that night.
Yeah, and we'll definitely talk more about the ownership group and like just the community around this club throughout this episode. But yeah, like I said, we were on kind of two different schedules. So I went down with the big Breeze flight on Saturday morning, which will give you a little preview of what was going on at the airport there. That video looks terrible. Yeah, so
we got the gist of it. Yeah,
we'll figure that part out. So as you can tell, there were chants in the airport, there were chants in the airplane. The Charleston-based Breeze crew didn't love it as much as we did, but yeah, the vibes are high. The expectations were off the charts going into this one, and people are bringing the spirit and the energy. Shout out to the Pools for getting the chants started there.
Can I ask you really quick? So I think we knew just from being on the Discord that there was going to be a bunch of people on that flight. Did you know there was going to be that many people? Like, that was close to 30 people. I didn't know it was going to be that high of a number.
No, I mean, I got to the airport and I was expecting to see a couple people that I knew were specifically going to be on the flight. And like, as we were sitting there, it was just like RIFC jersey, RIFC shirt, RIFC hat, like wave after wave coming. I genuinely felt a little bad for the people who were like the woman sitting next to me on the plane. She's like, "Oh, my husband and I were in Newport this weekend. We're from Charleston." So I felt bad for those people slightly, but not very much at all. But they had fun with it. I don't think we were too insane, but it was, again, the energy was already on show to start. So Andrew, we went through the whole day getting up to the match, but once we got to the tailgate, obviously a great time. We always talk, especially on the away end episodes with the different supporters groups, about how, hey, during the match we were battling, but before and after we're partying together. And I think the atmosphere at the Charleston tailgate was fantastic.
Yeah, it's great. And it's very much in line with what we've been hearing from other RFC fans that have gone to other places, whether it was Louisville last week, Indy the week before that, any of the other guys that have been able to, or guys and gals that have made it to all the different away games. And then even for the people that have come over to our tailgate, there is a sense of community within this league, and there's really good vibes at this place. I think that they're very welcoming, as we are, to anyone that comes over to our section of the tailgate, and it was a lot of fun. And then a quick fun story is we were tailgating, and then this Charleston fan came over and asked if there were any volunteers.
I want to be clear. The definition of fun here is a little iffy, but continue.
Asked if we wanted to play any cornhole. And he did say we need 2 victims. He did use the word victims. So we're like, all right, well, Ryan and I will jump in. And then on the walk over from our section of the tailgate to where the cornhole was being set up, he did let us know that the person we were playing against had appeared on ESPN multiple times playing cornhole. So this guy just was really good at cornhole. And he went the floor with us. And I've never seen someone play at that level. He was attempting to do something called airmailing it, which was a new term for me, which basically meant he was trying to throw the bag in the hole without actually hitting any of the board. And he did that. So he would have 3 shots where he would throw one at a low trajectory and he would airmail it. And then he'd throw one like at a medium trajectory and it would go in, and then a high trajectory and that would go in. And we were just getting toyed with. So I think we played best of 3, but we lost 21-5 and 21-2 or something in the 2 matches. So we got smoked.
It was it put me in a bad mood for like a good 5 minutes. I was really pissed about it. I felt bad. We were representing RIFC and we got absolutely destroyed there. But it'll shock no one who's been to a RIFC tailgate to know that La Banda obviously was out in force. They were showing a lot of passion, really putting on a show for everybody, RIFC or Charleston included. So quickly give you a little preview of what was going on there. So yeah, that'll surprise absolutely no one who's been to a tailgate before or been to a match or has heard us on TV. Yeah, La Banda, they bring it. They always brought it. Shout out to them. They are truly some of the heroes of this story, driving 15 hours to Louisville and back, driving 15 hours to Charlotte and back. I mean, the commitment of those guys, the passion, the energy they bring is just off the charts. And quite frankly, I think the other teams are legitimately getting afraid of it.
They're the lifeblood of everything that we have. I mean, we can make a lot of noise without them, but it's on a different level when they show up and they bring the energy that they do. So it carries with us, whether it's in the stadium, outside in the parking lot, and it also just brings in people too. I mean, I think a lot of the Charleston fans are coming over and just coming to say hi just because, they could hear the noise coming from across the parking lot. So shout out to La Banda for everything they've done.
Absolutely. And before we do get into kind of the match here, we also have to give a big shout out to the ownership group. They sent us in with a, quite frankly, ton of RIFC beers. They also worked it out. So instead of bringing 0 drums, we could bring in 2. So obviously that makes the energy a lot better. It made a phenomenal tailgate for all of us. So yeah, Andrew, just anything else to add on kind of the support we saw throughout the weekend with the ownership group?
Yeah, they were tremendous. Like I said, I got to spend a little bit of time with them at the barbecue place, and they are, and at the tailgate too. They came over, they hung out with us at the tailgate, and they've been fantastic. On multiple occasions, as I was talking to them, no matter who I was talking to, they were personally thanking me for making the trip, and they did that with everyone that they spoke with. And I kept saying thank you. Like,
it would have been funny if you left that second part of the sentence out. You're just like, no, there's only thanking me.
Yeah, it was only me, only me, because I was the only RFC person there outside the group. But like they really took to heart the fact that there were people that were spending their time and resources and money to come down and support the team and do everything that we've done throughout the course of the season. So they've been really tremendous, and I think that all of them are just really good people. And I think that we really have to not take this for granted, because I think that we've seen a lot of other professional organizations. We see this now with Memphis 901 and having the rights transferred. There are a lot of ownership groups that just don't really care about the team. They don't give a crap about the fans, that, a lot of this is just a P&L line item for them in their investment portfolio. Like, it's not really something that they're really pouring their heart and soul into. And the feeling that I got from everyone that I spoke to there was that this was something that was really important to them. And the whole idea of being rooted in community is not a marketing tactic. Like, this is truly what they believe in, and they understand that this is how you're going to be able to grow an organization at a grassroots level from the ground up build something that's sustainable is to really do it through the community. And you can see that. I mean, the fact that they sent drinks down with La Banda and made time to come talk to us, like all of that is really to continue to give us the support to be able to kind of spread the good word across the state. And I do think that the club itself is having a moment here in terms of, I mean, it really helps the way the club's performing, but seeing how packed out the guild is and the momentum that we're gaining in social media and with the local news media as well, you can tell that something special is really starting to get built up, and the investors really feel that, and they want to keep feeding into that too.
Absolutely. So as we turn to the match here, Andrew, we did a pre-match preview, me, you, and Matt Hands, which no one saw because I couldn't figure out how to get it uploaded because it was too big, too long. It was a mess. But in our pre-match, preview, we talked a bit about what we thought was going to happen in this one. So just to kind of set the stakes here of what was going on. So this year we played Charleston twice, 2 draws. Charleston only had 1 loss at home all year. They were on a plus 35 goal differential at home alone, very similar to Louisville, as we talked about last week. They had 2 players in the 2 of the league's top players, Nick Markanich, who I think everyone is deeply aware of at this point, but he smashed the single season goal record with 30. Aaron Malloy, who was the top rated player by both FotMob and SofaScore. I also absolutely love him. Obviously, they're clearly a good team, which we talked about pre-match. And I think both of us, we mentioned this, we actually were kind of a little bit more concerned about them versus Louisville.
Yeah, and Matt Hands called it out in his the pre-match speaking really well, where they're just a much more balanced team than Louisville is. I mean, Louisville can just go on these hot streaks where they can be untouchable, but they had a blistering pace because of how well they could score. Mm-hmm. But if a team punched them in the mouth, they had to claw back, and most of the time they did. But their defense was leaky, and we saw that in the second and third match against Louisville. Charleston's just more of a solid team, and we played them twice. And they were both hard-fought, scratchy matches where could have gone either way, and it didn't really feel like either team had a leg up on the other. And you just see the way Charleston's played throughout the playoffs, throughout the season. They've been really, really consistent. So there was something to be said about the fact that we were coming off of a high of knocking out the top seed, and they've just been doing what they've been doing all year long, and they felt really confident. And talking to some of the supporters there, even before the match, the guy that I was partnered with on the cornhole, I was like, what has been the vibe with Charleston supporters? Like, how do you feel coming into this game? What have people been saying? And he's just like confident. Like, we feel confident. This team is playing really well. We're at home. Like, everyone feels like we're going to win. And there wasn't a cockiness about it. It was just like the same confidence that we've had in a lot of these matches. They're carrying with them, and they're coming off of a finals run last year and a really, really good home form. So it's not surprising that they had that confidence in there, but you did feel it a little bit. You're just like, all right, this is going to be a different game than it was last week against Louisville.
Yeah, I was a little nervous, especially after that cornhole match. I was like, shit, there's just these people are brimming with confidence. This is not good.
And I forgot to call out, we mentioned it on that video. They had a live DJ there, which is fucking awesome. They had these big speakers. There was a guy on the turntables just blasting music. They were shooting up fireworks in the parking lot. They knew what they were doing.
It was a good time. So as we look at the lineup as it came out, the real big kind of a question mark going into this one was obviously Quizera is out with Rwanda on international duty. So how is Kano going to adjust the lineup here? So as they put it out, Koke and Net, obviously we had the same back 3 per usual of Stoneman, Duggan, and Yao. We then had Frank on the right wing back and Noah as left wing back, which I think was really the big decision there. We had JJ and Chico up top with the adult midfield of Haraval, Ibarra, and Holstad there. So, Andrew, any surprises here for you, or anything that you were worried about here?
No, I mean, admittedly, I got this one wrong. I really thought that Connor was going to keep the offensive pieces in place because they've been locked into those positions for the past month plus, and they've been really, really efficient. And I didn't think that their most creative and dangerous attacking piece, Noah, that he would move him out of the spot that he's been in, which has been in a little bit more of a free role where he can be more creative, into a position where he was going to end up having to play more of a defensive, in more of a defensive shape, not be able to get up the field as well. And, Matt Hands really called it, and a few others, where they really think that the way to do it is to have that balance and have him on one side and either Dugan or Nadarse on the other, depending on which way they want it to go. But in retrospect, this was the right move, and not just because they won, but I think I underappreciated how well Noah can do in the defensive position in that wingback role.
Oh, buddy, we're going to talk about it. Don't you worry.
And the other piece for me, one of the unsung heroes, I think, for me for this game, was Chico. He played a phenomenal game. And I think what I didn't really appreciate from him, I knew he was a very mobile forward, but he did a tremendous job of dropping in behind JJ and just cutting off a lot of that space. And he was almost just following Malloy around and really just denying him access to the ball. So he shadowed him. He wasn't man marking him, but he shadowed him. And Malloy just didn't get the ball. And at one point late in the first half, the commentators were even talking about how Charleston just looks really disjointed, and they've had to play really direct and try to get the ball over the top. And I think a lot of that was because of the positioning that Chico had, and he knew where to be, and he was able to fly up and play offense. So I was worried about losing Noah in that role, and I didn't give enough credit for Chico and what he could do in that role. So it ended up being a perfect move.
Andrew, you're stealing all my talking points for into this podcast. Sorry. No, I totally agree. One thing I thought Kano made two really interesting adjustments that I agreed with here. I liked having Noah on that left wing back spot because it keeps the dynamics the same, where you have Frank as more of the kind of defensive wing back of the two, and Noah as more of the offensive wing back, we usually see with Quizera. He also, interestingly, a lot of times when we've seen Chico and JJ play together, usually JJ is more of the kind of second striker, attacking midfielder who's setting up Chico. They actually reverse it, where I think we've seen a lot of really good stuff, especially this playoff run, with JJ being more the tip of the spear rather than that kind of creator, hold up play player. So I love that Kano took the recent learnings into account and adjusted there. And I think, again, it was a game plan that we'll talk throughout this, but I think paid off, like you alluded to, in many ways. So kicking off here, it did seem like we were kind of pinned back a bit for those first 10 minutes. We really couldn't get into rhythm, and Charleston was really kind of putting their pedal to the metal there.
Yeah, it took a while for us to really settle in, and I think Charleston really tried to lay on the attack in that first 10, 15 minutes. They were poking and prodding, finding different ways through, and we weren't really allowing it, but we were really playing with 11 behind the ball. Mm-hmm. And every time that we tried to break out, we just didn't have the numbers, or the Charleston defensive line was just there to break it up and send it right back out. So we had no rhythm from an attacking standpoint, from a possession standpoint in those first 10 minutes. And I started to get a little bit concerned of, are they going to struggle to break through here? Because if Charleston finds a way to break one in, this game's going to be completely different. So it took a bit, but they found their footing, and things started to change after that 10-minute mark.
Absolutely, yeah. So about 15 minutes in, Rhode Island FC gets a free kick, and that seems to wake them up a bit. And at the 19-minute mark, we see this really great play, which I think was the first of Rhode Island FC really starting to show their teeth a bit in this one.
Haribo wins it back. Dequa looking for some width. Haribo just able to keep it in play. Now JJ Williams, so good at finding the space. Dequa's making the run over the top. Albert Dequa just wide.
So I don't think in real time I noticed how tight that was. That was a very near goal. But I mean, the one touch lofted ball by Noah to find Chico on that run was absolutely outrageous, and I think was just a bit of a shadow of what was to come the rest of the evening.
They had a few balls like that over the course of the game where they just played beautiful cross-field passes that landed perfectly where they needed to. And it just feels like, we talked about it last week after Louisville, they're playing with confidence. And these are the types of the types of passes that they were trying to make earlier in the year, or the possession style that they were trying to carry up the field, that we just did not see them pull off in the first third to half of the season. But they're brimming with confidence now, and it's great to see how well they're able to move that ball around.
Absolutely. And yeah, at this point, we do see the drums kick in. The kind of atmosphere, especially up in the Rhode Island FC supporters section, does kind of pick up here. So just a little video of the vibe in the stands, which might look weird. So again, yeah, La Banda, just loud, proud, drumming us on and getting everybody involved. Great learning tonight of the vertical videos do not work on the stream. Season 1 guys, we're figuring it out every week, both on and off the pitch here. But yeah, so around 30 minutes here, we start to see a bit more of, again, this kind of around FC starting to sink their teeth in, starting to figure out, throw some jabs to keep this fight analogy going, and start to find some vulnerabilities within Charleston. And a lot of it starts to come on these long throws, corner kicks, and set pieces here. So in the 34th minute, it's the first little hint that there's something going on here.
Long throw from Holstead. Puts it right in front. The header looping back post. Nodded away by Grinwis. And it was slashed off a Rhode Island player and out for a goal.
So, Andrew, this has obviously been something the team has been thinking about and working on all season. We've seen Clay on these basically anytime it's in the final third throw-ins, he's taking it. So, how did you start to feel the vibe shift at that point?
It started to transition more, and it became much more of a balanced game kind of leading up to that moment. And then it felt like those last 10 minutes of the first half, then it really started to shift in terms of momentum in Rhode Island's favor. And it really, a lot of that it's a good point that you make, came from those set pieces. Like it felt like that's really started to pour it on, and not just the set pieces, but the follow-on plays that came from the pressure that started with those set pieces. The throw-in specifically, I was impressed with Clay because he's had that in his game all year, but it doesn't really feel like they've been very dangerous. I don't know what he took before the game, but it felt like they were just going that little bit further with a little bit more pace, and they were much more dangerous last night than I feel like we've seen throughout most of the season. Because they haven't really done much for me throughout most of the year, but there were a few last night that really caused a lot of problems on the defense for Charleston.
Yeah, I think we were doing a really good job flicking the ball on. It just seemed like we had just more big bodies, and I think that's been a trend kind of throughout this playoff run. Of we just have a pretty like imposing team, and I think it's been paying off, especially on these free kicks, corner kicks, things like that, where we can just get bodies in the box that can cause a bit of havoc, cause a bit of chaos here. So as we move into the 40th minute, again, these kind of free kicks, set pieces are really starting to pile on.
Ibarra again for Rhode Island. The header is touched over the bar by Adam Grinwis, taking no.
Yeah. So there we see Ibarra after I think it was a corner, fade one into the box. Again, one of our bigger bodies, Frank, flicks it on. He almost scores there. He forces the keeper into a save.
No chances and a corner kick for Rhode Island.
Just that Frank knows his heading. Shoulder square. Punches it up and.
All right, so next up we have a corner here.
The in-swinging ball towards the 6-yard box, batted away. Ibarra delivers again. Now it's Stoneman to drive it across.
The second.
So yeah, so here we really start to see our big bodies are starting to cause problems for them in the box here. I again, like watching it on the replay when I got home today, like significantly closer than I expected. But Rhode Island FC then get a Clay throw in here that they are maybe going to capitalize on. I don't know if it's a secret.
Long throw in, flicked in front, it's in! Rhode Island score! Rhode Island off the long.
So again, this 40-minute to 43-minute period, it was just like wave after wave after wave, and Charleston couldn't handle the physicality in the box and just the bodies that we were getting around it here.
Yeah, it was just relentless, the way that we were throwing bodies in there and really making it difficult for them. It was reminiscent to me on the opposite end of really that last couple minutes of the game or so, where we just couldn't find a way to get the ball out, and Charleston kept sending it in. But we did that time and time again, especially late in that first half, and you could feel this goal was starting to come because Rhode Island was really starting to pin them back. And the team, just all credit to them, that never say die attitude. They just kept going at them until they could find something to get through.
Absolutely. So as we look into halftime here, so Rhode Island FC bring a 1-0 lead into half. Where are the stats? So as we look at the stats here, obviously ball possession was really skewed in favor of Charleston. This is something they've done all year. They were the #1 team in the league at possession at 66% versus 34. But it's been a while since I brought up my favorite little stat called field tilt here. But you'll see that while they had a lot of accurate passes, so many of them were in their own half. They really couldn't find a way to get all the way out basically from their half and connect that to the offense here, which I think was a really fantastic game plan from Kano. You mentioned a few of the different reasons, whether it was cutting off service to Malloy or whether it was really doing a good job staying marked up on their attackers, which again, we're going to talk a lot more about. But if you're just looking at the kind of key stats here, Rhode Island FC really, I think, were deserving to go into halftime with that lead. We almost doubled them up on shots. We had 4 times the amount of shots on target. We had 1 big chance. They had 0. So I struggle to see here and say, Rhode Island FC should have been level or down at half.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, we've had conversations of a lot of times when Rhode Island's been in their best form, especially late in the year, is when they've been in these types of games where they can really absorb the pressure and then go and attack, where they're not the ones that are on the front foot in terms of the possession. And this game exemplified that. They didn't pack it in. They made it really difficult for Charleston to do anything with the ball, but they were really decisive and quick to really attack them on the counterattack. And the reason that these look skewed is because Charleston tried to do a lot of build-up play or direct play that really went nowhere. Whereas Rhode Island, when we got the ball, we just went. And we had a lot of dangerous movements, one after another, but none of those were a really sustained possession. There might have been a good build-up to get there, but it wasn't a case where we were just possessing the ball and trying to slow the game down. It was just the opposite. We didn't mind that fast game, that scrappy game, because we just took it to them every single time. So I agree. And I think the commentators on the broadcast said that at one point too, where you look at the stats and it looks like Charleston should be the team that's in charge. But in all reality, all of the best opportunities have been from Rhode Island at that point in time. So it was a deserved lead, and we felt pretty good at halftime in terms of what the team has been able to do, and hopefully able to carry it through the second half.
Yes, absolutely. So as we look at what happened at halftime, so Charleston did make a few subs. They brought in Ikaza for Chapman, who Ikaza he ended up being a bit of a main character throughout the rest of this. And then they brought on Myers for Conway. This was really some to kind of try to boost the offense here. Myers had 14 goals on the year, definitely someone who can put the ball in the back of the net. But as we get into the second half, I don't have a video for this, but there's a moment at the 48th minute, and I said Ikaza was going to become a bit of a storyline. He drags JJ down, trying to hold him up, then puts his arms around JJ to hold him down. JJ then fights through him because Ikaza is, I think, my height. And for those of you who know me, you know that is not very high. And JJ just stands over him and just starts yelling at him. And then Charleston starts losing their mind that JJ did that. And I was like, if there's anything that encapsulates how these two teams approach this match, I think it's that. It's Charleston trying to go in here, basically thinking that they can do whatever they need to do and they were going to get this. And JJ saying, absolutely not. We are taking it to you guys. So I don't know if you had anything more to add to that kind of small moment, but something I thought really epitomized what was going on last night.
It was great because when we saw it there, we just saw JJ kind of get in his face, and I couldn't really get a clear picture of what was happening. So then watching it on the broadcast, you realize that the guy was just trying to wouldn't let go of him. And JJ just screamed in his face, which was great. And it did feel like we talked about in the pregame, I thought it was going to be a scrappy match, because particularly with the style that these teams play, the way that they played the first two matches, it felt like this was going to be scrappy, that it was going to be a hard-fought match for each one of them. And I feel like Rhode Island really brought that. And Charleston tried to do that at times. They were physical at times, but I think we out-physicaled them. And it really started to show in that moment that we were starting to get in their heads. And the fact that they were down a goal, they were starting to press a little bit. They were starting to get frustrated. Every time they took a shot from somebody, they were getting more and more upset with it. And then that really just started like a chain reaction, it felt like, from that point forward.
Yeah, absolutely. And so as we move on here, I do have to preface these next couple of minutes here that I was stuck in line trying to do all the halftime things. Somehow Charleston's setup was worse than Burn, where you just are going to spend 20 minutes trying to do anything you needed to do. So I missed these live. I did watch them on the broadcast. But first off, I, again, didn't know this happened, but there was actually a Chico disallowed goal, which I thought was pretty sketchy. In the 50th minute, Frank kind of goes over the top of someone, gets penalized for being tall as shit, and then Chico buries it. Unfortunately, they call it back. But again, it's like Rhode Island FC came out of halftime being like, we are going to take this to you. We are not going to just lay down and let you kind of come back.
Yeah, I actually don't have a problem with that. I know that even the commentator thought that was a really harsh call, but I do think that you tend to see that. And in all reality, the taller players and bigger players do get penalized in those situations. I think what happened was that the ball was coming away from goal. The defender was standing there and he got hit in the back. And granted, it's not like he was shoved. There was no arm there. But I think that more often than not, you see that called. And then considering that it led to the goal, I think that it's probably the right call. And I didn't really have an issue with it in the moment. I watched the broadcast. I still didn't really have an issue with it. Obviously, it would have been nice to see another goal. But I can see people being upset with that one.
Yeah, again, I've never been penalized for being tall, but it does seem like it would stink. But yeah, that was a 50th minute, and just to show how much just Rhode Island FC were really piling on here, we do see the Noah goal in the 53rd, but actually, I am skipping over my notes here. 52nd minute, there's a lot of stuff going on in the second half. There's a really interesting moment where Markanich gets pulled or something like that on a play, gets really pissed, and then he goes up and bumps the referee. He does get a yellow for it, but I thought that was really a moment of wait, we are really in their head.
Yeah, and he was very lucky not to get sent off. Yes. I mean, because it's not like he was face to face with the referee and then just kind of chest bumped him a little bit. He came flying in there and bumped him, and the ref almost lost his balance and then took out a card. And it wouldn't have shocked me if this was the regular season, if that would be a red card. I think given the stakes that were at play, and the ref did a pretty good job of keeping the card in the pocket all night, potentially with that Haribo one aside at the end of the first half. I think that he just wanted to keep this, not destroy the game at that point in time with it being 1-0. But I think that they were lucky not to be down a man at that moment in time. But I agree, like that, you could see starting with that JJ play, then that one, they just started to unravel a little bit more and a little bit more.
Absolutely. And yeah, so in the Discord, we obviously will get to everyone's social comments here, but Leo had a good question here. So what is it with these high-performing teams that start complaining to officials for everything when they're dumped on their heads in the grand scheme of the game? Not that we don't complain to or about officiating, but it feels like Indy, Lou City, and Charleston all started really turning to the refs for everything when they felt their respective games getting out of hand. So any thoughts there?
I hear the point, but I think that's just the sport. I think that's just what happens when you have, especially when you have a team that's favored to win, that starts to lose. I think that's just what you see. And to be fair, if you listen to the broadcast for the next minute or two, because really that actually led into the goal, but that time in between Marquinhos bumping the ref, and then really the final lead up to our goal, you could hear Cano Smith barking at the referee, saying, "You can't touch the referee. You can't touch the referee." So I just think this happens from both sides, and it just comes out more when the favorite team is losing. So I hear the point. It's not wrong, but I don't think that's specific to this league. I think that's just the sport.
I'm going to go a little step further there. I think that Charleston came in kind of how we felt in the parking lot of they felt entitled to win. They didn't think that they had to earn it, and Rhode Island FC went and they took their lunch money all game. Again, we're going to keep talking about this, but again, they spent so much time complaining about the refs when there were extreme tactical problems. Again, Evan's been saying it this whole time in the chat, but they did the exact same thing that they've done in the 3 games or with us so far this season, and none of it has worked. They didn't try to figure out any of their progression issues. Nick Marquinhos basically didn't touch the ball. He had 2 shots the entire match. They just didn't change up much to try to solve the problems that were put in front of them. They just wanted to complain and say, please, please, please bring me back in the game. So I thought that, again, the way they approached this, and we're going to talk a lot more about this, I thought it was Eastern Conference Finals. It was the Eastern Conference Finals, and it looked like a classic Tuesday in Charleston. It was like as if it was that 10 a.m. game that I think Loudon and I think Charleston played earlier this season, like a very throwaway thing.
Yeah, that's a fair point. I mean, this never say die mantra that they've taken on for the playoffs has lived with them throughout the whole season. And no matter what their record is or what their performance is, they're perpetually the underdogs because they are the new guys on the block and they're the expansion team. And Louisville is Louisville, right? They're a top team every year. They smashed records. They were unbelievable this year. So, of course, they were going to have that kind of mentality. Charleston, defending Eastern Conference champions, they were confident. They have a near pristine record at home. So they should be confident. But with that confidence, you're not preparing yourself for the dog that's coming at you who's just fucking hungry for it, and they're going to try to take it from you.
Absolutely. And take it from them. They did in the 52nd minute with Noah Fuson, assist maker in chief, playing goal maker in chief here. It's actually funny. You could hear at the start of that Kano still yelling at them. You can't touch the referee. You can't touch the referee.
All of a sudden, this game is heated up just a little bit more than it did in the first half. Here's Holstead leading the break. Noah Fuson, most assists in the championship this year, but how about a goal? Noah Fuson has given Rhode Island a 2-0.
So absolutely electric stuff from Noah there. It's, I think, to just actually bring it back a player beforehand, Clay did a phenomenal job carrying that through the midfield. He fought off multiple people to then play Noah in. But yeah, once Noah got one-on-one with number 2, I think his name's Sigabi, something like that.
Siebers, something like
Siebers,
that. Yeah.
Siebers, he had that guy on toast the entire night. That guy also had a very embarrassing game. Like he did that one play where in the 30th minute where he fell down and to stop a transition that we were bringing through and completely. So that's where I get especially annoyed when people are saying, "Oh, Rhode Island FC played dirty." I'm like, you guys are doing your dark arts stuff too. But yeah, I thought it was a phenomenal finish. Yeah, phenomenal finish by Noah on his weaker foot. I read about this recently. It's something that Saka has been doing on Arsenal. But, when you're tight quarters with the keeper, actually going high to their glove hand is actually apparently a better tactic because they're taught to go low to make themselves big. So, just an absolute missile that he rockets past the keeper. And the pandemonium starts to ensue.
That goal was awesome. The whole lead up, starting with the whole dust up with the Marcanich thing, and then Rhode Island got the ball. They had beautiful build up, starting from the left defense, swung it over to the right, brought it to Holstead, and then you saw Holstead just turn the Jets at that point. He just left two guys in the dust. I think it was John Morrissey that had pointed out. I think it was Malloy and Ikaza. And at that point, those two midfielders were just starting to get more aggressive and trying to stop that midfield, and he just blew right past them. He took advantage of that aggressiveness, and then that open space, beautifully weighted ball to Noah. And in that moment, we've seen a couple of those for Noah this year where he tends to take that back to his right and try to swing it to the far post. And I do think that Sebers there was like trying to keep him honest with that right foot, not expecting that missile to come off of his left foot. So absolutely gorgeous goal. You can see what it meant to them too. The place went nuts. There was the replay from behind the Rhode Island bench. You just saw them flooding over to Noah. So it was just tremendous play.
Yeah, we didn't see it in the video I just showed, but Noah also has just an absolutely unbelievable knee slide. He goes like a good 5 yards.
Yes.
I'm always impressed when that happens. I guess that's what happens when you play on actual grass. But no,
take advantage of it.
Yeah, I mean, getting that second goal was always going to be huge. And you could tell Rhode Island FC came out from halftime with the intent to do that because, if they get the next one and it's 1-1 and then all of a sudden it gets a little nervy, it's tough. They went in, punched them right back and said, nope, we're taking it 2-0. And I think that really set a pretty strong tone for the rest of the match here.
And that was feeding off of the buildup that we've been seeing with the frustration with Charleston too. So like 1-0, anything could happen. At 2-0, you're just like, all right. I mean, we've got them. Like we just have to see this out. Obviously, there was a lot of time left since it was the beginning of the second half, but it felt like there was no question of who should be leading at that point in time. We had the game by the scruff of its neck.
Absolutely. So obviously next up, we do have their goal in the 61st minute with Torres here.
Torres, he's going for goal!
Yeah, so any issues you have on this one? I know some people have said, maybe Koke should have done a bit better there, but yeah, anything you had there?
I've been wishy-washy with these all season long because he's had a few of these. And I can't tell if it's him cheating. I can't tell if Koke is just trying to prep for a redirection or something inside the box. But it just feels like he's just half a second too slow, and then he gets caught on those. So you couldn't have placed that any better. Like it was just a rocket right underneath the bar. But I think that if he was watching that the whole time and took that step back early, he probably could have parried it. But if his read on that was like there was a chance it was going to drop and someone was going to touch it. So I don't know. I think that was just a beautiful shot. I don't fault Koke for it. I think he might have been able to do better there, but I don't know that. And you really couldn't get any other angles of it, so it was hard to really tell how much to put on him there.
I agree there. I struggle to fully blame him. I think he was cheating up for the cross, which I think makes sense in that situation. You don't expect the guy to shoot. I also think that was a phenomenal shot where he got the perfect level of dip to get it up, down, and over. So again, I'm not going to blame Koke there. He may have been a little bit better, but I also do want to give credit where credit's due. That was absolutely beautifully hit ball there. So
it was reminiscent of the Malloy one in the game last week against Pittsburgh that sent them through. I mean, it was a different part of the different side of the goal, but it was very similar. It was just a rocket that the goalie had a really tough time being able to put a hand on.
Absolutely. So in the 90th minute here, as we look at the subs, so Charleston, they brought on Prince Sadie, obviously for the memes. There was a audible chuckle from the RIFC supporter section when
there was a lot of elbow pushes, like, hey, Prince is coming in, check this out.
Yeah, that was funny. We then brought in Brito, Doyle, and Chumesi to see this one out. I thought the trio of Brito, Doyle, and Chumesi also, and especially Brito and Doyle, had a really phenomenal kind of run at the end to see this one out.
All three of them have really impressed me with the impact that they've made in their limited time, and for different reasons. With Brito, he was a starter early on in the year. He lost that starting position, really had his minutes suffered. But then the last quarter, third of the year and into the playoffs, he really cemented his role as the first guy off the bench in these key moments, being able to see games out. I said a couple weeks ago, Chumesi felt like the closer for me in terms of his defensive prowess coming in. And now it feels like Burrito's the other end of the closer. He's the closer on the offensive side in terms of being able to just keep possession of the ball and really just be, you know, an energetic player out there, just chasing things down and doing a good job of keeping that ball. Doyle, I mean, call it for what it is. I've showed him a good amount this year, and he's done a really good job. Like in these appearances, it felt like he effectively lost all of his time once JJ got healthy and Chico was fully healthy, and he's made a tremendous impact. Obviously, didn't have that great assist. I think it was Indy, right? Or was it Louisville? I can't remember now. They're all starting to blend together. But he did a really good job yesterday as well. Louisville, yeah. He's done a really good job making the most of his minutes, really maximizing his time there. And then Tremesi, coming from a position where he was injured for so long, and the positions that have been placed in now in these defensive positions, these are high leverage situations where he's coming in late in games. None more so than when he came in that Indy game and basically just had to finish, you know, the last 20, 30 minutes of that match in that defensive position. Actually, it was more than that because they ended up being down a man. So it just, all three of them have just maximized their time and have been great subs coming off the bench in every case.
Absolutely. And as we as a team did see it out, in the 90th minute, we did get, I think, maybe the funniest moment of the night. There's this big scuffle where Chico gets fouled. He then takes Yukaza down. There becomes this big kerfluffle. And at the end, Sigber, he is just barking at Noah. And I just was like, if someone like pulled my pants down over and over and over again and just like ripped me to shreds the entire night, I don't know that I would have the ability to talk shit like he was doing to Noah, because he got fucking roasted by Noah all night. Like, Noah was man of the match potentially, and this guy's still trying to talk shit. Like, I couldn't believe it.
Yeah, they were just, we were in their heads.
Yes.
And it just continued to show throughout the rest of the course of the game. But yeah, he got torched and just didn't know really what to do with Noah there. So props to Noah for doing that to somebody, just being able to get in someone's head in that way.
Yeah, I mean, he's one of the players who, again, we're going to talk about him a bit more at the end here, but like, just what a hero he's been for this team. What a unbelievable run of form he's been on, and not just for the playoffs, for months now. He's really been one of the big reasons why we are where we are. But obviously, while we talk about 90 minutes, what happens at 90 minutes, we have the final whistle here.
He nods it down, the clearance, and that is it! Rhode Island, in their inaugural season, are going to the USL Championship Final.
Yes, and pandemonium ensues everywhere. So first up, we have our friends over at Providence Brewing. And then we have the sold out crowd, capacity crowd over at the Guild. Let's see.
We lose you? Oh, you're back.
Was that?
Yep, you froze for a bit. Nothing played on my side.
Oh, that's because I have to do this part. Yep. All right. Again. Just absolutely crazy. And shout out to James Bissett for that video there.
And that got picked up by the USL League account too. They ended up sending that same video out. So there's a lot of recognition, at the highest levels here.
Absolutely. And we obviously do have to show the at the stadium video. Yeah, so just incredible scenes at full time. And we also did see the supporters get to lift the cup here, which was, I thought, an awesome. So yeah, it's just cool to see how much the players seem to really appreciate the support that everyone has been bringing. Again, these haven't been easy journeys. Many, especially La Banda and many people driving 15 plus hours to get to some of these matches, and you just have to love to see that they also appreciate that.
Yeah, it's been clear that they've appreciated our support all year long with the way that they've interacted with the fans and been there for us post matches all year long. But you could see it after the Indy match with Koke posting his video and seeing all the interactions there with Louisville and Brett coming out and talking to the supporters, and then the interactions with the fans, and then same thing here. I mean, they make a point pregame, come over, acknowledge us. After the game, do the same thing. And there was I think it was the interview that Kano had done with USL, and he was telling his players, win or lose, we go over and we support them because they've been there for us. So there's an understanding at the management level and at the player level that the fans that are going out there to support this team, the community that's behind them, that they continue to give them that support back and show that appreciation, and they've shown that all year long. So they've done such a great job. That picture that was taken of Irvin holding the cup there with all of us around them was just an A+ picture. It was
dining room.
You couldn't have scripted any better.
Yeah, that's dining room framed picture status there. So as we dive into the second half and final stats here, kind of same story as the first. Charleston had all this possession, but they absolutely did nothing with it. At the end of the game, we ended up doubling them up in total shots. We had 4 times the amount of shots on target. We had 2 big chances to their none. And again, like looking at just the passing here, they couldn't do anything with it. I did some math earlier. Again, my lovely little field tilt stat. We ended up having 56% field tilt. So the game was played in Charleston's end of the pitch. They just could not find a way through to get like out of their own half and up to their attackers here. And we're going to talk a bit more about that. But yeah, Andrew, anything just kind of looking at this final stat line here that pops up to you?
The possession is obviously skewed, and they poured it on pretty late. But as we know from covering this game and from this league, it doesn't really mean much. And you're right, they didn't do anything with that possession. And the approach that they took was a bit surprising to me for a couple reasons. One is we played them twice before, and most recently was a month ago, and Markanich and Malloy were invisible in that match, and it happened again. And it happened again because of the approach that Rhode Island took, which they just repeated. And even the starting lineup, like Quazara was on the last one as well. Like it was a very similar kind of lineup, and we just repeated what we did there. And for some reason, they couldn't really figure out how to adjust to that. So every time they got the ball in the middle of the field, there was somebody on them, and they were on their back. They pushed them backwards. They were never able to just turn, look, and figure out what their next pass was. So when they were able to kind of get through, it was because they were doing it in a very quick transition, and it was one-touch passing where we couldn't really catch up to them. But for the most part, the second there was somebody with the ball, somebody was on top of them pushing it backwards. So there were a lot of tactical fouls, but even if there weren't tactical fouls, it completely disrupted everything that they wanted to do. So it was shocking to me watching this over again today, how little they did to change what happened last match. Like they didn't adjust to it. And what was surprising too, even more, is the Tampa Bay game. I didn't watch a ton of it, but from what I read about it, Tampa Bay really played that similar style in the first half. And I don't know if they ran out of gas or what, but then they let off and they started giving Charleston that space. And then that's when Charleston came back and took over the match. So they had to have known that was going to be Rhode Island's approach, given the fact how the other matches went, given the fact that how they ended up winning the game last week against Tampa Bay. But for some reason, they didn't. So credit to Kano and discredit to Charleston for not figuring it out. And the stats really don't matter at that point because this game really wasn't that close.
Yeah, and speaking of Kano, he did say pre-match, it was an interview in the Projo. Yeah, they're the best team in possession. We have to take away the ways they can hurt us in possession and figure out which areas of the pitch we can win the ball and hurt them, and try to impose our own possession style on them as well. So clearly this wasn't some surprise that Kano was cooking up. It was a very obvious thing about Charleston if you look at any of their numbers or data, but it kind of pops off the chart that they clearly like having the ball. So shout out to Kano and the team for continuing to figure out the correct way to approach a team that wants to play this style.
Yeah, I agree. Are we going to get the Dugan here? I'm seeing some chatter about this.
Oh
now.
Yeah. So speaking of, I was giving you one last bite at the apple there, but yeah. So I don't have a segment name for this, but I just want to spotlight a couple of performances here that we're going with. So we are going to start first up with Coach Kano. I can't find the comment. Goldie said it earlier. Yep, here it is. Kano has been pushing the right buttons at the right time for about 2 months. I can't agree more. I think when we kind of take a step back after the season is over, which will be next weekend now, we now can officially say that, hopefully with some extra hardware. The way that he has learned throughout the season, the way that he set this team up specifically for this game, but for the past couple of games, the leadership that he is showing both during the games and off the pitch, instilling the right things like you said earlier, hey, we come over the supporters, win or lose, either way. I saw someone on Twitter, I can't remember who said it, but he could lead me to war or something like that. Like, he truly is a leader. He's truly someone who is modeling the right things for this club and someone who's learning, adjusting, and putting this team in a position to continue this run that they're on.
Right. And it started with the roster building. So I've been impressed with his ability not only to coach as a first-time head coach, but also as a first-time general manager. The way that he put together this team, and we've heard him talk about it earlier in the year. It came out in the quotes in that USL article as well too, where he's looking for high-quality individuals. He's looking for no assholes. There's no asshole policy there. He wants people that really take to heart the idea of being involved in the community. And then from a tactical perspective, he wants people that are good with the ball at their feet. He wants people that can play in any position. He wants people that are high energy, because what that does for him is gives him a ton of versatility in his tactics. So he's adjusted his tactics all year long. But in situations like yesterday where we're missing Quizero and we're missing Turnbull, those are really significant issues that we have to work around.
If you would have told us that a couple months ago, I would have been like, we're screwed.
Yeah, there's no way. Right. But the versatility that he's built to have this roster set up in the way that it is, where he can just slide people around and they can just naturally fit in and do what they need to do, whether it's Fuson in a more defensive position, or Chico not being that target man up front, or Nadarse playing over on the right wing back and being able to play up the wing and also help out on defense. Like he's built that versatility in the squad, and that started with the roster that he built out. So credit to him, because he's not only been a good general manager, he's coached them up very well. He's done very well tactically, and then he's just been a good leader, like just a tremendous leader. And you can hear it in the way that he speaks, the way that he addresses his players, the way he addresses the media. He's done a great job.
Yeah, and just one other thing I've noticed too, the past 2 games especially, is this team is athletic. Like, I feel like we have just ran over and ran through Louisville and Charleston specifically. It was the moments in the game where I was like, we just are like superior athletically than these teams, and I think that's like kind of almost becoming underrated in the sport, where you talk so much about technique and positional awareness and versatility and things like that, but yeah, just the fact that like kind of like Clay seems just like he could play any sport on planet Earth, and like luckily he chose to play soccer for Rhode Island FC. So stuff like that, I just think again, like a masterful job there. And I did mention his game plan here, especially for this one. The next up, which again people have been talking about in the chat, Morris Duggan. Unbelievable performance by him. The only note that I put in, I was taking notes during the game, allegedly, which I put one note, and it said Duggan is man marking Markanich, and that using like that game planning, which it's one of those things where I'm like, why didn't everyone do this throughout the season? But having a defender like Duggan who doesn't feel uncomfortable roaming and being anywhere on the pitch, he was absolutely fantastic. Markanich had 1 shot in open play. He only had 44 touches the entire game, about half of their 2 wings. We saw him lashing out. We saw him literally bumping refs where he might have gotten kicked out because he was so frustrated in this one. He had absolutely nothing all night, and it was because of this great scheme by Kano, but also the performance of him. I tweeted out sometime in the second half, just like, I'm in awe of this performance. And I think, when we look back and reevaluate what were some of the bigger performances of this season individually, obviously JJ's had a bunch this run, Noah's had a bunch this past run, but I think this performance by Duggan tonight was absolutely unbelievable.
Yep, I fully agree. I think this is his best performance in a Rhode Island shirt all year long. He was just a beast. And going back to the conversation on the formation, I think one thing that I also didn't give enough credit to was that if we were to go with having Dugan out on the wing back, we would lose him in the back 3 line, which would really limit his ability to do that man marking of Markanich and really stand up to him, one-on-one. So having him in that back line, I think, was essential. And all 3 of the central defenders were fantastic. Yao was great. Solon was great. But Dugan was just everywhere. And it felt like but one thing that really impressed me by the whole back line, but you saw it the most from Dugan, is every time that there was a 50-50 ball kind of in that transition area going into our attacking third, I don't know if we lost any of them. Like every single one of them, he got there quick, and he was able to clean it up. He was able to distribute the ball out. Like nothing got past him there. And the entire night, it was just every time like you kind of held your breath because you're just like, oh no, the ball's going into kind of like a weird space and you don't know what's going to happen. Dugan showed up and took care of it every single time. He was tremendous last night.
He brought a great level of like calm back there. But yeah, the thing I think was specifically amazing about his performance was he had probably the hardest individual job on the night that you can ask. Hey, this guy smashed the goal scoring record for this league. He's about to go play to the second division in Spain, all this fanfare. Please go mark him. But also anytime he made a tackle or got under pressure or anything, he also was kind of the release valve of just like distributing it out from there. I was, again, very, very excited when we signed him. I think he is exactly what we need in that position. Obviously, he is just on loan, but a truly fantastic performance. So, again, when you look at Charleston, they have two big areas that you kind of want to cut off. Number one is Markanich, which Duggan helped out with. Next up was how do we deal with Malloy? So when you look at this one, I was looking at his stats. He had like 110 touches or something absolutely crazy. He had 0 key passes on the night. He averaged 2.4 per match this year, which was second in the league. He's someone who absolutely has been killing teams. He's, again, the highest rated player on both FOTMob and SofaScore. And I thought we did a fantastic job. I said in the pre-match thing, which if you go in the Defiance Discord, I posted the video earlier today for anyone who wants to see it. But one thing that I was saying is I thought we did a great job last match was having Noah, who was playing that kind of second striker role, shadow Mark Malloy. Chico kind of filled into that role. He did a fantastic job. And they also did a good job when Chico would kind of take him when Malloy was in that more defensive area, maybe defensive third, middle third. And then they did a great job passing off. It was mostly to Clay because Malloy was shading to his side, but it was one of the 2 8s where it was either Clay or Harabao taking Malloy and then marking him from there. So there was always someone with him. He had no space, especially once he got into that kind of more attacking area to do anything. And I think that was one of the biggest reasons why they couldn't figure out how to solve for kind of connecting their defense and attack because they couldn't find Malloy in space where he actually could do anything with it.
Yeah, that's spot on. And if you've watched any other Charleston games, not ones that played against Rhode Island, you can see that both Markanich and Malloy just played at a different level.
Yep.
Like Markanich's ability to finish in the box, his positioning, his strength, like he just plays. You could tell that he's someone that's going to a more prestigious league. And then Malloy is just the engine. Like everything runs through him. And
I genuinely love him as a player.
He's great. Yeah, he would be a fan favorite if he played on our team. And in both the match a month ago and the match today, both of them were shadows. Like they were non-existent. They were neutralized, and I was going to say they looked ordinary, but they didn't because they touched the ball in dangerous positions so few times. Like we didn't even see. I think at halftime you looked at me and you were just like, "Did Markanich play in the first half? Like, where is he? Where has he been? He was shut down so much." And I agree with the Malloy thing. Chico doing a really good job of just cutting off access to him. But the times that the play did progress, there was always somebody there, usually Clay, to just immediately pick him up. So he just was never given the space. And every time the ball did go to him, there would just be someone in his way that would just push him backwards. So I think I saw from the John Morrissey in the first half, he had 50 touches, but he only attempted 2 passes in the final third. As the engine of the team, as someone who really creates all of that opportunity for Markanich and for others, to only have attempted 2 passes in the final third just shows you how good of a job they did tactically of neutralizing him.
Absolutely. So 2 more shout outs here before we do get to the social media content. I brought it up earlier. Listen, he's been my guy all season. I bought my Noah stocks early. They are through the roof at this point, but I thought again, just another phenomenal game from him. He really, I think, carried us through the last bit of the season to that playoff push. I think he's done well in the playoffs. He hasn't been his like unbelievably impactful self that we saw in a couple of those matches, but I thought this one was really incredible. Obviously, he had that finish. He had the 1 goal. He had 5 chances created. He was 3 out of 4 accurate crosses. But while that is almost like what you expect of Noah at this point, his defensive performance I thought was incredible as well. 4 to 6 tackles won, 2 clearances, 12 defensive actions, 6 duels won. He had a couple moments where I think Torres got the better of him, but overall, I mean, for a person who a week ago was playing as like a second striker, he's played attacking midfield. He's out on wing back against one of the more dangerous attacks in the league, and is just putting in a performance. And I think it's just goes to show, like, number one, how versatile is. Number one, like how diligent, how much he cares about kind of the game plan and what he needs to do, and just like his commitment to what this team is doing.
Yeah, it speaks to the versatility that we talked about before and the way that kind of was built the roster. And Noah's been a big piece of that too. I mean, he and Clay are probably the two players that have moved around the most over the course of the season. But Clay's positioning has been really set ever since Haribo showed up and they figured out that adult midfield trio. Noah's kind of been in different spots. He's played that left wing back role in a more offensive position, depending on the game plan. He's played in a more defensive position. He's been playing up top as a forward. He's dropped back and played like an advanced number 10. He's done the dual number 10 thing with Jack P. Like he's played in so many different spots. He's been a right wing back too. He's been everywhere. And in this one, my concern, like I talked about before, in terms of how we're going to set up the starting lineup, was that we would lose his ability to really set up the creativity on the attacking end, because he was going to get pinned back. And I think that happened in the first half, where he really wasn't present in that final third as much because of the fact that he was getting pinned more back to help out with the defense. But it still didn't take away his influence on the game because of what he was able to do on defense. And then as the game really started to get more stretched and they were able to play a bit more direct and in those counterattacks, he was a part of all those too. So he was great.
Yeah, I mean, it really shows off too is like conditioning, and like I kind of talked about it. He just is someone who will practice and practice and practice and practice. And no offense to all the people who played striker out there, but usually you think more of like the midfielders, like the true center mids, are kind of more in the fullbacks are the people who they can get up and down the pitch all day. And Noah, for someone who doesn't play in this position ever, he just was up and down that wing all night. You said, doing the job on the defensive end, but also being a presence on offense as well.
On the conditioning point, because you mentioned it earlier too, in terms of just how they're stacking up against other teams and being able to kind of run them off the pitch. I remember early in the year, Scott was really harping on our friend from Wales that the team maybe looked a bit disjointed because they didn't have the legs. So they didn't really have the stamina and the fitness level to be able to play in the style that they wanted to play. And they've built that up now. And they've tailored a bit of how they wanted to play to be, a little bit more direct and not trying to pass it all the way up to the net. But that fitness level has carried through, and it has allowed them to ascend over these teams even through this point in time. And they all look like they can run all day.
Yep.
And I think in that article, that US article I've been referencing, he even mentioned that I think Kano said that Noah was probably the most fit person on the team because the dude can just run and run and run.
Yeah, shout out to Kano for going to the Columbus Crew too and bringing us back Noah and Clay. That was quite the shopping trip for him. Final shout out I wanted, and this one's a quick one, but the fight of this team, it's just like they went in there and they said we were going to bully this team. We were going home with something, whether it is the respect of this other team, the win, the trophy. We're going home with something. And I think one of the big areas this was highlighted in was like anytime Charleston were on the break, we were flying back. We would all of a sudden Charleston would go from having an advantage to being 6 versus 2. It was absolutely crazy how much fight was in this team. Anytime Charleston got near our box, there was people just there to block shots. Charleston really never got going in that final third, but I think a lot of that was because of just the fight, the commitment to press, to parry, to be on top of them. So just, the fight of this team has been incredible throughout this run, but I think it really showed up last night.
They're fully bought in, and you can see it in every facet of the match. They went through stretches earlier in the year and even late in the year where they didn't really look fully there, like mentally, like even thinking of that Orange County game.
I don't think the Orange County game.
Yeah. Well, they were going through the motions, but I didn't really feel like they were maybe not as invested, but like they weren't as there mentally. And that might just be because of, the fatigue of dealing with the travel and just all the games that they've been playing. But now that they've gotten to the playoffs and going into that last stretch of a few games and then moving into the playoffs, they've elevated, they take it to another level. And any championship level team, meaning like a team that has the caliber of winning a title, that's what you see from them across all sports, right? They take it to a different level when they're in the playoffs, and it feels like they've been able to do that consistently in these 3 matches.
Absolutely. So, Andrew, before we get to these socials, anything you wanted to add here?
No, let's take it to the socials.
Awesome. So we'll start in the D36 Discord here. We had a ton of people chime in, and we absolutely love that. So first up, Leo comes in with his good, not letting the officiating get to us like it got to Charleston, though we did get suckered into their instigating towards the end, which is fair. Better, locking down Markanich and co. again to where miracles were needed to keep them afloat, and best, overcoming obstacles yet again to, all caps, prove them wrong. RIFC in 3, doors off hinges. Andrew Gomez chimes in, RIFC in 3, East is ours, and also jobs not done. Next up, we got Nate Ski here. Road 2-4. His good win, better offensive defense, best never say die attitude. Next up, my RIFC in 3 from Zach Do is Leo knows ball, which I said is usually mine. What else we got here? Now, looking at the Twitter post. We got Evan Ryan, aka Terminator. Good, fuck the raccoon. Better defense, defense, defense. Best Eastern Conference champs. Honorable mention to Charleston's goal. What a strike. We got FQB, who will be live on Twitter tomorrow with his space. So make sure you go join. His RFC in 3 is my heart is full, or my heart's full. He said, good job not breaking the structure there, Kevin. His good representation with traveling supporters again. Bravo to all that went. Better winning the Eastern Conference Finals game on the road. Best onto the final in our first ever season. We have proved everyone wrong the entire season. Very proud. Very much agree, Kevin. My favorite. We got Dookie Man. Laugh every time. We got RFC in 3 here. So much joy. Good. Set the tone physically early and not stopping even as cards were giving out. Better, a beautiful pressing structure and unreal defensive display, especially Morris. Best going to the finals and proving we deserve it. I know Dookie Man's a fellow football manager geek, so pressing structures. We'll chat about that all day. We got Evan, RFC in 3. What a ride. We got the fake Staley to Bear. Good, beat the Golden Boot winner. Better, beat the number 2 and number 1 seeds in the East. Best team in the East. RIFC in 3. Rhody on top. And we got Mon McP here. Eastern Conference champs. And then he just added in the support since day one for this remarkable team. Kano, Smith, and the players love here. So as always, we really, really appreciate everyone chiming in, sharing your thoughts. Just to wrap this up, like, quite frankly, I was a little emotional. There's actually on the replay I was watching today, there's a part at the end where you can see me, I was like tearing up in the stands. It was a phenomenal trip. I after hearing Kevin and Matt talk about their experience in Louisville, I was like, I've been to games all season. It can't be that crazy, but feeling the energy, being on the road with the team, and feeling their love for us as we were giving it to them. It's something I'll never forget my entire life. I mean, this run has been incredible. No matter how it ends on Saturday, this is going to be something I'll remember forever. So thank you, anyone who, has supported this, chimed in, and just love you all for also supporting this team.
Yeah, it's been a hell of a ride, both in terms of what this club has done, what the performances have been, and then us being able to do this, write blogs and talk soccer. Like all of this has been great. And I think I mentioned, I think it was before the Louisville game last week, where winning in Indy was great because at a minimum, it gave us another week to be able to do this. And then we went to Louisville, and then it was like, all right, we got another week, and now we have another one. And it's just been such a pleasure to follow this team and to see, all the joy that they brought us and others. And then I agree, this trip was phenomenal. I had such a good time just being with all of you guys, and then being able to see this team, take that win and get us to the finals, seeing what the ownership group has been able to do and supporting us and supporting the club, and then the performance on the field. So it was just fun. It was a really fun weekend, and I can understand the emotion of it, and hoping that there's one more left to go.
Yeah, and just we got Natesky in the chat here saying, keep going, guys. It's championship edition. Natesky, we aren't going anywhere. I promise. We'll be here, championship or not. There's going to be a lot to talk about with this team. So next up, we RIFC, I don't know if anyone knows this, are going to be playing in the USL Championship Finals. See, I'm getting emotional. That's incredible. They are heading to Colorado Springs to take on the Switchbacks at noon on Saturday. So everyone get up. Noon Eastern, yes, noon Eastern,
10 a.m. local.
Yes, I have a lot of issues with that, but hey, they're gonna have to deal with it too. So we'll be at Providence Brewing ahead of this one. But hey, whether you come to Providence Brewing, you come anywhere, get to a watch party. The videos coming out of those last night were incredible. The team has a ton of bars and different things. Just get around this community, be involved with people, bring a friend, bring 10 friends. It's going to be an absolute experience, and something that, again, I don't think any of us are ever going to forget. So thank you, everyone, for joining tonight, especially those of you who joined live in the chat. And a very special thank you to Andrew for jumping in as co-host and being a great travel buddy all weekend. Remember that Tide Talk is more than just a podcast. You can find us on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook for daily social media content. Click the link in this episode's description to follow all of our accounts. And the party doesn't stop, folks. We have, like I mentioned, the Quahog Corner tomorrow night live at 9 a.m. on Twitter. We also have Timmy's player ratings and Matt Hans's blogs coming out either tomorrow or the following day as Matt Hans continues to drive back. So we'll give him a little leeway there. If you're not already there, join the RIFC Nation Facebook group. We are quite literally almost at 850 followers. I think we're at 849 as of before this. And it's a really great place to see more RIFC content and interact with fellow fans. I went in today and proving stuff, and it was a party last night. People were just posting, which was awesome. And if you're not already using the RIFC Club Collector app, make sure you click the link in the episode description, type in the code Tide Talk, all one word, and to get a free pack to add to your collection. Like I said earlier, there is one more match. Get in there. It's going to be a blast. Thanks for tuning in again for Tide Talk. I have been your host, Ryan. And as always, up the tide.
Up the tide.